everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Today we have a special guest and just quick meeting for any of you that are interested in learning more about bear safety, especially since you're all joining for the retreat. We have Steve, who has been super kind and helping us to actually get permits for the hikes for our retreat. So Steve is actually runs his own company. nationalparktours.com is his website. I'm going to put it in the chat in case you want to connect with him and his business after this meeting. He's an experienced guide and educator. He actually has been educating regarding Yellowstone and Japan's natural wonders for over 30 years. He has he's combining his academic studies in wildlife ecology and history, and he is actually a guide fluent in English and Japanese, so that's really cool. And he has guided more than 45,000 guest days. So I'll let him tell you a little bit more about that. He lectures frequently at schools and universities around the world, and he has many publications about Yellowstone in Japanese journals and media. So he's also a fellow of the Japan Wolf Association. So with that, I'm really thankful to have Steve talking to us about bear safety today. And I will let you take it from here, Steve. Let me know when you want me to start sharing my screen and the presentation.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight. Here it is a rainy thunderstorm night as our heat is probably done for the year. We're in autumn right now in the Yellowstone area, as this is our first winter storm coming in, but it's a little too warm for snow. So it's just only going to be rain for the next several days. As Carla was mentioning, I've been in this region for many, many years. I'm one of the old timers in this area as far as the guiding and interpretation goes. And I actually got my start at age 3 when a bear came in my family's tent in Glacier National Park. So my very, very first earliest memory, that first memory you've got from way, way back ago, is that bear coming in the tent. The memory number 2 is the rifle shot that killed that bear. And then the next day, the rangers were dragging it through our campsite. So I think that's where my career as wildlife biology and interpretation began. So I'm based in the Yellowstone region, the Yellowstone ecosystem, but we work in national parks throughout the world. I actually have guests in northern Japan today who are going out for bears, and hopefully they'll see some. So if we could now ask Carla to switch over to a brief PowerPoint I've prepared to kind of give you a sense for what it is you'll be sealing and why you're in this area. And then we'll switch over to the nitty-gritty of how do we live successfully with some of these dangerous animals that are in this region. And first of all, I'd like to begin with, where will you be visiting? And this, of course, is the Yellowstone ecosystem. And it's a term that many visitors to our region don't use. But we locals, we don't think so much of Yellowstone National Park. We think of the Yellowstone ecosystem. And you see the circle there. The circle actually got moved a little bit between different versions of PowerPoint, but you see Yellowstone and Grand Teton parks listed on your screen right there. Next slide, please. Is it going to move for us? The next slide.
There it is. There it is.
Okay. All right. So you see in the dead center there, this particular map actually has the National Park Yellowstone too big on this map. And the key thing I'd like you to understand is that Yellowstone Park itself is only 10% of the Yellowstone ecosystem. So in other words, these grizzly bears, these black bears, these bald eagles, the elk, the bison, all of these critters are going outside the national park. And where you will be is where that red arrow is located. If Carla can make one more click, that should flash to kind of point out exactly where you're going to be. For those of you who are flying in or driving in, you will be in the Yellowstone ecosystem miles and miles away before you actually get here. It's a big place of 20 million acres, and you're going to be in the center. Within this region, then, we have two bear species, and we have the grizzly bear and the black bear. I actually had a black bear 10 feet from my car yesterday. It was a bear with a bit of some illness. It was infected with mange, and it was chomping down on snowberries, which is kind of nice timing for our first winter storm and the snowberries that the bear was feeding on. But again, where you see the arrow, and there's an airplane flying above me right now, you might hear that. Where that bear is located is actually right about where you all will be staying, because you are in occupied grizzly bear habitat. And everywhere around here, we have the black bears as well. So it's important to understand that even though you are not inside Yellowstone National Park, you are in the Yellowstone ecosystem, and the same animals that live inside the national park live outside the national park. Next slide, please. There we go, one more. So my academic background is both in Japanese history, language studies, as well as wildlife biology with a focus on grizzly bears. So I think that bear way back in the 1960s that came in our tent started this career of wildlife with my focus on bears. Next. And our country has changed. This is a photo from the beginnings of the national park, the national forest experience. And this used to be what people came to see and do. In other words, you see the bears there that are being fed by the tourists on a stagecoach. And this was what you came for when you came to Montana, when you came to this region. Next, please. Or if you were visiting the national parks in the 1960s and the early 1970s, and you wanted to go see a Yogi Bear, you went to a garbage dump. So the first 100 years of the history of our region, the first 100 years of our national parks, our national forests, the experience that we all went through was watching wildlife on garbage. And of course, it created problems. It was unhealthy for the bears. And the end result was a lot of people were hurt and a lot of bears had to be shot. Next, please. So today's America was created because of what happened in 1975 Yellowstone. And I don't know what states where you all are listening from, but in whatever state you are in, for example, if you're in California, all of those 3,000 mountain lions that you have right now have their origin from 1975 Yellowstone. Or if you're in Florida with all of those alligators, guess what? Your roots are back to 1975 Yellowstone. All of these white-tailed deer we've got throughout our country. When I was a kid, there weren't any deer anywhere. Again, this all goes back to 1975 Yellowstone. And the reason is because in Yellowstone Park, the whole park, all that could be found were 4 mother bears. That means extinction. That means the destruction, the no longer having these bears in the world's first national park. Yogi Bear is now gone, etc., etc. So that is the year our society, our country changed, and today's America was born. So now our country is full of wildlife. Anywhere you go in America now, of course, it's different according to region as to what animal it is. And in our region, though, it's grizzly bears, black bears, wolves, elk, bison, deer, you name it. So the results have been wonderful. And in 2022, we had about 50 mother bears that had 100 baby bears. And we consider that the proper number before Europeans came to this region. So in other words, we're back to 150 years ago, before there was a national park. So today's America was born in 1975, Yellowstone. Next, please. Well, how did our country change? There's three reasons. First was Apollo. And for those of you who remember Neil Armstrong stepping on the moon, that happened, what was it, 70 some years ago, just last week. Apollo changed how we view the world. Next, please. At the same time, there was this Vietnam War. And wars have this impact of changing the relationship between us people and humans. Next, please. And then there's this new technology, one more click, of this new thing called a television. And maybe some of you remember when, wow, you had the first TV on the block. And through that TV, you saw Apollo. You saw the first video of the Earth from the moon. You saw Neil Armstrong step off. And at the same time, you saw the war, which allowed then the creation of Grand Teton National Park and other places. So there's many things, but these are the three reasons why our country changed. And now we have a land full of wildlife. Next, please. So the results have been wonderful. This is 2 pages from a National Geographic magazine that on the left-hand side, you see a land where there are no predators. In other words, no bears and no wolves. And it's a pretty sterile landscape. You see deer, in this case, elk in our region, but you don't see much other life there. That's what happens when we lose these big predators. The right-hand side, the second page there, well, this is when the wolf comes back, the grizzly bear is there, and then all of a sudden you have a land that is rich with life. The rivers are clean, the rivers are full of fish and other creatures. So this is the impact. This is how in our country, we've been able to rewild, is the term that's frequently used, our land, and the results have been amazing in this region. You will see this when you come here for your workshop. Next, please. In other words, there's connections all over the place. Where you will be staying up in the Gallatin Mountains, which are in the Yellowstone ecosystem, north of the national park boundary, but still connected. There's all these different animals that live there. In particular, will have moose near your cabins, you'll have foxes. There are both black and grizzly bears in that area. There are a lot of wolves in our region, but not too many exactly where you will be. But in any case, where you will be is a land full of wildlife. Definitely, if you bring a pair of binoculars, look at the mountain peaks, you should be seeing bighorn sheep, mountain goats. You know, it's a wonderful place that Carla has arranged for you. Next place. And of course, next, all of these critters, we all live together under the impact of these apex predators, the bears and the wolves. Next. Well, guess what? There's one other way that these big critters protect us. And it's one of the reasons why it's important to have a critter like a grizzly bear or a black bear or a wolf. And yes, this photo you've probably seen on national news since coronavirus, COVID started. There's some of those buggers right there. Next. And guess what? This is my test in December 25 in San Francisco. And you know how it's difficult to turn down a political dinner? It's the dinner where your daughter is introducing the father to the prospective groom's parents. And the groom's father says, oh, don't worry, it's just a cold. Guess what? It wasn't just a cold, it was COVID. But I'm lucky. Next, please. Near me in Yellowstone Park is a place called Mushroom Spring. Mushroom Spring is a healthy hot spring. It's full of life. That cut-in image that you see there is a biofilm. It's layers and layers of bacteria. And guess what? Inside me, which saved my life, because I'm pretty sure I would have died from COVID when I caught it in San Francisco. Next, please. Is this stuff. So for any of you who have had the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccines, which are based on the RNA, DNA, you've got a little technology in your arm from Yellowstone Park. In other words, thanks to these big predators, the grizzly, the black bear, and the wolf, this technology could be discovered in the 1960s. It's old technology, and it was quickly able to be used for the COVID vaccine. So there's direct connections, not only to the land, but also for us humans directly. And that vaccine saved my life, I feel. Next, please. So it goes back to a healthy landscape. And where you will be staying for your workshop is a very busy place. It's a very popular place because it's a healthy landscape. Next. Well, that means we've got to find a way to live with all these dangerous critters. So a few years ago in my mailbox, this is an advertisement from a bear spray company, and it just happened to come in my mailbox. I called them for permission to use it for my talks around the world. And I really, really like the message that this company is giving. Notice on the left-hand side, it's got the humans out there doing a hike, right? The family. And the message is protect your family. And on the right-hand side there's the grizzly bear family, just like it's going to be in your area where you'll have your workshop. And guess what? It's respectfully saying that bear is going to protect her family too. And the key thing between us is the bear spray. So this new tool, it's been in use now for about 25 years of allowing us to live successfully with these animals that the reality is they can kill us. They don't usually want to, but they can if something happens. Next, please. In our region, in the Montana region, bear safety is everywhere in the culture. So this is a local supermarket, and guess what's in the parking lot? You see the bear spray training. Next, please. I don't know if you all can hear the sound, but this is a bear safety training day at the parking lot. It's common, everybody does it. You should be seeing lots and lots of people. That little kid there who is learning how to spray the bear spray. That's what we're doing today. I'm sure he will never forget it. And that's how we train our kids and the future generation of how we can live together with these animals. Next, please. Or if you're, for example, flying into the Jackson Hole, Wyoming airport, well, guess what's next to where you pick up your baggage? You can go and rent some bear spray. Or if you're in Yellowstone Park, you can rent bear spray. Or you can go to the local Costco in Bozeman and get bear spray. It's everywhere, all of the stores. Next, please. And if you've missed the Mother's Day sale, maybe you'll catch an end of the season sale. When I show this slide in Japan, people real quick catch it, and there's always some chuckles in the audience because bear spray over there is a new thing. But here in Montana, in this region, everybody's got it, and I recommend you be prepared as well. Next. So in your group, I understand you'll have 38 participants. If anybody is planning to do jogging on trails around where you'll be staying, I hope you'll think deeply. This particular article is from July 22, 2 weeks ago. And unfortunately, some folks leave their common sense at home when they come to our region. So this lady was jogging. She was outside of Yellowstone. She was about 10 miles outside the park. And as she was running on a trail, she ran into a mother grizzly bear who then attacked her, killed her, and left. We consider that a normal bear reaction. There's no punishment to the bear. As the sheriff says, or as this biologist is quoted, it's a defensive attack, we call it. But the key here is we've got people who are mountain biking, jogging, running on trails. And if you're thinking of doing some of those activities, I hope you'll think, you really want to run into a bear on the trail. Next, please. So a couple of the tools that we do use is how folks should handle themselves in bear country. So what you see on your screen there is what Yellowstone passes out to people. Next slide, please. This is the back side of it. And this focuses on safety. For those of us in this local region, we're really tired of visitors not behaving properly. So the messages are right there on that bottom right-hand side. Don't run, keep your cool, slowly back yourself out of a problem. And in other words, we're the weakest animal out there, and that bear is going to decide the results. But you can help that bear make a safe decision. 3 weeks ago, I had a bear that popped up next to my car, right at the guardrail. I mean, this is 10 feet away, as I was unlocking the car for a family I was guiding to get in the vehicle. And what do? I've got kids, I've got adults. That's the kind of a message which, keep your cool, don't panic, don't run. Next, please. Lots of people may be wondering, well, what about wolves? Because wolves are certainly in the news lately. If we compare the contents of the two messages that the Park Service is passing out, look how the title here is Watching Wolves. It's not wolf safety. Backside, please. Next slide. And again, there's no message here about what to do if a wolf attacks you, because we don't think it's going to happen. So in other words, we're focused on the bear safety. And when you're hiking, when you're around your workshop area, you need to be aware that yes, there are animals in your area, and you need to be always thinking, if it pops out, how should I behave? How should I react? Next, please. You drive our roads. I understand some of you are going to be driving and you'll see big billboards like this. And guess what? See that Montana plus 90%? That was a recent research report, a big survey of the people in our state. More than 90% of the people who live in Montana said, yes, they want grizzly bears to be living in our area. That's an amazing number. This is an animal that can kill us. And yet more than 90% of people here say, yes, they want bears on the land. And that means we all need to learn how to survive together. Next, please. Landing in the airport. Well, guess what the artwork is going to be in the Bozeman airport? Not only wolf, but bears right there. So anywhere you go in this region, the message is we can live with these animals. Next, please. Well, that's the PowerPoint side of what I'd like to introduce you to. Now let's get to the nitty-gritty. So here we are. For those of you who are thinking on a more professional level, I highly recommend go out and buy this canister. And the reason is bear spray is a very dangerous product. And inside this canister, you see the foam right here. And it's a little bit hard to see with all of this rain coming down and the bad light under this umbrella. but it's discolored in places where the bear spray, as it was in my car, has discharged a little bit. And the focus of the foam, for the foam, is then to catch the particles of bear spray so the car is not damaged. In other words, if you happen to leave a bear spray in a vehicle and it gets hot and the can explodes, you're not going to be using that car for more than a week. It takes a long time for this stuff to dissipate. So for those of you traveling to places, if you're using an airplane, you cannot carry bear spray. This is what it looks inside. It's got the foam all around it, protects the can from puncture, as well as then it holds the bear spray in case it leaks. And yes, these things do leak. Here's what it looks like. Basically, if anybody likes to put some Tabasco sauce on your pizza, this is strong Tabasco sauce. This is stronger though than what police use. This is stronger than what is frequently sold in the small things for people to carry as they're running or jogging or walking around a major city. So it's the same thing, same chemical. It's Tabasco sauce, but a very, very strong version. You may notice that this particular holster, this way to carry it, is designed to go on a belt. So this would go, this is where your belt would go as you're hiking, as you're walking. However, I'm going to pull another one out. Again, it should be always stored in the canister. I personally do not like this design. And if we attach it to a belt, and guess what? It's time to visit the restroom tree in the forest or the Forest Service restroom or wherever it is, this possibly has to come off. So I prefer, if you're gonna be serious about having your bear spray, I prefer the chest holsters. And it goes up and around, it clips right in. It always is available. So even when you have to have both hands, it's right here. When it's time for a restroom break, the bear spray is here, even though if you have to remove clothing. You always know where it is. If it's cold out, the reality is this area gets really cold sometimes. You don't want this to freeze, so I can tuck it in. So for many reasons, I prefer the chest holsters. If you do decide to get bear spray on your Montana trip or an Alaska trip or whatever, those are your two choices for the holster. Never, never do you want this in your backpack. It's useless. The attacks happen too quickly. You've only got a second or two to react. That's how quickly it happens. The bear that popped up when I was trying to unlock my car, I had 1 or 2 seconds to react. And I was able to throw my people in the car and then deal with the bear and the other people around. But this, if it's in a backpack, if it's stored in the car and not with you, it's useless. You can't get to it fast enough. Well, how do we use this stuff? You take off the safety and pull it out. There are 2 major companies that make bear spray. One of them is based, this particular company is based near my home. And if you ever buy a can, you'll see a photo of a guy on it with a bloody face. This is a photo of 5 minutes after he was attacked by a grizzly. His name is Mark. He lives not too far from where I'm standing. And he always says, that bear, yeah, it attacked me and he still has the scars, but she was beautiful. And I surprised her. And he made this bear spray company because he wants to live together with this animal. The other company called Counter Assault, kind of depends upon what store you're shopping at, is based up near Glacier National Park. Really good folks as well. They sent me a case of training canisters down to help teach you and other people about how to use this stuff. So in our local stores, you'll find Counter Assault or UDAP. I don't recommend using off-brand bear spray. The research reports are showing, even though you may save $10, it's not as effective, it's not as well made. So either of these companies I can recommend. All right, I'm not going to use the live canister. I taught the Bozeman Public Schools bear safety class for many years. And we were shooting bear spray, practicing one night by the Bozeman High School. This was before there were training canisters. And guess what? Some of it drifted into a classroom and we couldn't use the classroom for 3 days. That's how bad it can be. So I've got a canister here. For your training purposes, it's labeled for training. It's everything except the actual pepper chemical. In other words, the Tabasco sauce. So it's a very effective tool to use whenever you're leading a group or when you have a family. In your family, you're going to do a hike in an area where you want, even the kids, my kids, both kids are trained and they know how to use it and they carry it. So here's how to use it. This finger in to hold it. The rest of your fingers are behind the can. Your other hand is used to pop off the safety cap, just like that. Now, you need to make an instant decision. One can is 8 seconds. 8 seconds. And over the many years I've taught how to use bear spray, I've always felt it's not my role to say, use all your 8 seconds in one shot. That's your decision. Do you want 4 and 4? Are you going to give a shot to that animal and see how it reacts? Does your group have multiple cans and maybe somebody can shoot the whole can and hope that animal leaves and then you've still got backup? That's up to you. But one of these big cans holds 8 seconds. So I'm not quite sure. I'm going to adjust the angle here so I can point down. I have a tape measure on the ground, which is showing 7 feet. Are you able to see that yellow line? And the manufacturers say that you can use this from about 20 feet away. But what about a day like today? It's raining. I'm hiding in some trees with an umbrella so my cell phone doesn't get wet. But if you're out in the wind, it's not going to travel 20 feet. So I always recommend 7 feet-ish, 6 feet-ish. The animal has to be close and you want to shoot the animal in the face. It has to get in the face. Many people shoot too high. In other words, the bear spray is flying over the animal. You may notice I'm not using the word bear because who knows, up by where your cabins are, there's moose. Maybe it's actually a mother moose protecting a calf who might charge you. And this bear spray probably will work on that moose. It could be a deer. It could be a coyote, who knows? So whatever the animal is, close and right in the face. So you're pointing down. Okay, I'm gonna give a shot now. That was about a 4-second burst. See how that cloud of gas spread out? That animal probably would have gotten a face full. It's pretty likely that animal would turn. And then for safety, I don't want tiny bits left over in a canister. So I would finish it out. You also may notice it's actually, the wind is putting it right back in my face too. So yes, my next step after I've gotten out of a situation safely is now I'm heading to the hospital because I've gotten a dose of bear spray. And that's how you would use it. It's nasty stuff. It works. Many people say, well, maybe I'll carry a gun. There's about 30 years of research comparing the pepper spray versus a gun. A gun works about 65% of the time. The pepper spray works 95% of the time. So once more, this is now a second can of training canister. One hand, you're holding it. Notice how all of my fingers are behind where the pepper gas comes out. My other hand is taking off the safety cap. And sometimes they're hard to get off. And then this one I'm going to shoot close to the cell phone so you can see it as it comes out. And this one is actually very old, so the pressure's gone. That's why you always want to check your expiration dates. Because boy, that animal's charging, and guess what? You've got a bear spray that's not going to function. It can happen too. Well, I think for all of you, you're going to have a wonderful trip. Carla has a wonderful place for you. It's an exciting, very beautiful area. I love it up there. And I hope your workshop goes great. Carla, if there's any questions or comments from anybody, happy to.
Yes, thank you so much. Wow, this was such a great talk, and I will reach out to you individually to talk about that. Thank you so much. I did have a question from Judith. She said, can you please tell us the names of the bear spray canisters again, just so that I write it down for everyone?
So the one company is called UDAP, UDAP.
And then the other one was?
Counter Assault.
Okay.
Counter Assault.
I wrote them in the chat for everyone. And then remind us of the cost. I think they cost like 75 to 100 or something.
No, Costco right now has 2 cans. And I actually took a photo of the price tag. I'm thinking it was $40.
Oh, wow.
For 2 cans.
Okay.
Frequently, as you are, for example, arriving at the Bozeman Airport, you will see people passing them off. Hey, do you want a bear spray? I can't take it on the plane, so you're welcome to have it. So you might run into somebody like that. Facebook Marketplace, when you get into towns, another good spot. Usually they're $10 a can. So there's a variety of ways to get it. $100 per can would be a Japan price. Here in America, it's much cheaper.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And then also someone wanted to know, can you use bear spray on a cougar?
So my answer would be, I would. I'm not aware of any research, although there maybe is some. So if I was hiking in areas with high densities of cougars or areas where there's reports of aggressive cougars, I definitely would carry it and I would use it. I do remember a recent YouTube of exactly that. Someone, I'm forgetting where, somewhere on the West Coast area, actually did have an aggressive cougar. They used bear spray and it took care of the animal. You do have to be careful though of your local laws, because there are some places where you cannot carry bear spray. And Yosemite, for example, is a place where my understanding is you cannot have bear spray there. So that would be something to double check. Also, because you cannot carry it on an airplane, you need to plan ahead. Are you going to ship it, for example, if you're doing an Alaska trip? Are you going to ship it to somewhere else? Or are you planning to buy locally? So those are the things to consider as well.
Did we need to go over bison at all or not really?
So the reason I actually have a a doc file there. Are you able to put that up on the screen?
Yes, and I actually was, yes, let me get that situated here. Okay, I believe you should be able to see it, right?
We're seeing the thank you slide.
Okay, sorry, let me try again. I thought I put it on the training doc. Try again. Okay, can you
There
see
we
it
go.
now?
So when I'm have guests in the field and we're out heading out for a hike, this is how I make sure everybody understands the basics of the item. And then I ask my guests as they're listening to what we did today to check off everything so that one, I don't forget, and two, that they're actively involved. So we've talked about bear spray versus guns. Bear spray 95% effective, guns around 65%. And then I've talked about, the bear spray is only 8 seconds. So it's up to you. It's not, I don't feel it's my role to tell you, just break it up into 4 and 4. Nope, it's yours. It's the situation, it's your group, it's how many cans you've got, all of those factors to think about. And then we've talked about here how to safely handle it. These canisters, they are really, really good. And if you go to, for example, Sierra Trading Post or some other places, you might actually catch them on discount or clearance. Test sprayers for all of my student groups and larger groups where we're doing something in the backcountry. Everybody practices and knows how, because the reality is maybe I'm the person who falls down. Maybe I'm the person who gets knocked down by an animal, and everybody else needs to then be able to use it to help the whole group. We haven't talked too much today about the bear body language, but that animal will tell you, hey, I want you to leave. Or maybe it'll tell you, I'm okay with you here. And that's something that takes experience to learn. I've had several bears teach me bear language. It was very interesting. Yesterday's bear actually was only about 10 feet away as it was eating snowberries. And it could care less about the 2 humans that were there, but a bison was walking down the road. As soon as the bear saw the bison, it took off running. It was very interesting to see. We humans were accepted, but a male bull bison was not. The bear took off from the bison. However, wherever you're going to be, there aren't any bison, but there are moose. There are other critters, mule deer, white-tailed deer, badgers, foxes, coyotes, mountain lions that we've already heard about. So I encourage you to look at that animal and study. What is the animal telling you to do? And then how can you help that animal make a decision that makes it safe for everybody? Distance to shoot the spray. Again, check what the can says. I always feel closer is a bit better, but that also means there's less time for that animal to turn. And then the last thing which we need to mention is, I said 95% of the time the bear spray works. 5% the animal does not turn. And that is when you do play dead. So play dead is not the first step. The first step is being smart out in these forests, in these meadows. Then if that fails and you do get charged by something, then the bear spray. And then the last step, when there's going to be contact made, that's when you drop to the ground and you play dead. So that's what that is.
Thank you so much, Steve. This was really helpful. Another quick note, if you play dead, you want to, I heard, get into like kind of like a crouch position, put your hands behind your neck. And at some point, if it is attacking you, what I've heard is you fight, do you fight back at some point?
Fight back is a very, very specific response when you think that animal has decided to kill you. So normally that doesn't happen. The woman who was jogging and killed 2 weeks ago, that animal did nothing once the bear felt safe, and the bear left. They haven't found the bear. There's a bear and a cub out there somewhere who recently killed a human, and we're comfortable with that because that bear did not predate, did not eat the victim. So the only time you would fight back is when you feel it's turned into a predatory incident where that animal is trying to eat you. And in that case, yes, you fight back with everything. Normally,
Sorry,
in
go ahead.
America, I mean, the reality is many of us have dangerous animals around us, whether it's alligators, it's mountain lions, it's coyotes, it's bears, and it just doesn't happen much at all.
Thank you. And someone said, what are your recommendations for avoiding a charge? Is there something such as large groups, talking, singing, etc.?
Yes, so the number one thing is to behave smart. I have had a couple of bad incidents, and all of those incidents were my fault. You know, looking back on it, the bear was not bad. The bear was reacting to me not behaving properly. In other words, I surprised the animal. So when that happens, you know, it's been a failure on the human side usually. I personally do not like singing and talking as an option because it really doesn't work. To give you an example, I'm in a bunch of trees right now with rain and wind. And if I was talking with folks, that sound is not going to carry very far. I also personally do not like bear bells. Now, many people do like them and use them. So bear bells are one option. What I've always taught my students is clap your hands. You can clap your hands for miles and get yourself out of an angry animal. This is a sound which does not exist in the wild. So I can be by rushing water and a bear will hear this, an animal will hear this. A voice, maybe not. Yelling, you cannot yell for 3, 4, 5 hours. Nope, your voice just doesn't handle it. Your hands might hurt, but you can clap. So this is what we use.
Thank you. And Susan, regarding your question, let's take that offline. We will have bear spray. I have my own already, and I know that the leaders have, some of them have their own spray. So let's talk about that offline. Feel free to email me hello@52 Hike Challenge. And then it looks like, Judith, did you have a question? I saw you raised your hand.
Oh, I was going to ask about the bear bell, but he already spoke about that.
Okay, thank you.
And so when people say to this large, do you make yourself large and yell, "Go bear, go away," or you just walk calmly back?
You know, yesterday's bear was a 1-year-old black bear. And this little 150 pound animal, if I had netted on a trail, I would have made myself large. You know, these young bears that are out and about right now have just been tossed away by their moms. So they're still figuring out how to live. They're still figuring out how to react around people. And it really can be useful to do this. And that is where, if you're calm enough, you understand that, hey, this small bear, yeah, it probably will work. A voice can work. I've talked myself out of several bear encounters. One time I also used a boat air horn. So air horns work as well. So it really depends on the situation. You've got a large grizzly, a large black bear, and you're trying to say you're bigger than the bear. That might make it angry. Who knows? So it depends on the situation.
Thank you, Steve. I also hear that it's different depending on the bear type, like black bears, brown bears, it's probably most, and I've actually myself encountered them and done the, hey, shoo away bear, and it worked. Whereas a grizzly is a completely different thing, which is why a lot of people carry the bear spray. So what I always say, and especially for anyone going to Yellowstone, with there being lots of bison there, I always say no before you go. It's my number one teacher. I say, do your research, what kind of animals you're going to encounter, and read up on what to do in case of an encounter. So that's really, really important here. So make sure to do that. And I think we covered everything. I'm just going to leave this open for one more minute so that we can all get our Friday evening and let Steve get back to his work. And Steve, thank you so much. This was so much more helpful than, it's so much more helpful than I even thought we were going to be talking today. So this was incredible, so valuable to have your wisdom and knowledge and stories and all of that.
Oh, well, thank you. And I hope all of you have a great trip. I don't get to meet you, but I think where you're going to be going is beautiful. Have fun and hopefully be safe as well.